The signal from the stars. The night was uncommonly quiet at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Dr. Maya Chen had volunteered for the graveyard shift, preferring the solitude that came with monitoring the vast universe while the rest of humanity slept. At 36, she had dedicated her life to SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, enduring years of jokes from colleagues and disappointing her parents who had hoped she would pursue a more practical career in medicine. The soft hum of equipment surrounded her as she sipped lukewarm coffee from her thermos. The large monitor displayed the usual waterfall of signals: cosmic background radiation, distant pulsars, and the occasional satellite transmission. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing that suggested humanity wasn't alone in the universe, until 3:17 a.m., when everything changed. The computer alert sounded with an urgent beep that made Maya jump, sloshing coffee onto her desk. A new signal had appeared, unlike anything in their database. It wasn't random noise or a glitch in the system. The pattern repeated with mathematical precision, a series of pulses that couldn't possibly be natural. Maya's hands trembled as she initiated the verification protocols. This couldn't be happening. Not during her shift. Not after all these years of searching. Computer, run full spectrum analysis and check against all known terrestrial sources, she ordered, her voice barely a whisper. The minutes crawled by as the supercomputer processed the data. When the results appeared on screen, Maya had to sit down. Origin: deep space, approximately 7.3 light-years from Earth. Signal type: artificial, encoded information. Terrestrial source match: none. She reached for the emergency contact list with shaking hands. The first name was Dr. Elijah Washington, Director of Xenocommunications at NASA. This better be important, Chen. Elijah's groggy voice came through the speaker. It's the middle of the night. Sir, I've detected a signal. Non-terrestrial. Non-random. It's them. I think it's finally them. Within 24 hours, the Arecibo Observatory had transformed into the epicenter of the most significant event in human history. Scientists from around the world joined the effort to decode the mysterious transmission, working in shifts around the clock. Government officials arrived with military escorts, their faces grim with the weight of what this could mean for humanity. Dr. Washington took charge of the operation, his tall frame and commanding presence bringing order to the chaos. People, we need to work efficiently. The world doesn't know about this yet, and we need answers before they do. It took 3 days of relentless effort before the first breakthrough came from Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a brilliant cryptographer who had flown in from Tokyo. It's a mathematical key, he announced to the crowded room. They're teaching us how to decode their language using universal mathematical constants. With the key in hand, the team made rapid progress. The signal contained data, massive amounts of it. Images began to form on their screens, enormous vessels drifting through the void of space, schematics of failing systems, and beings unlike anything humans had imagined. They're dying, Maya whispered as the truth became clear. This isn't a greeting. It's a distress call. The aliens, calling themselves the Lyriani, were a spacefaring species whose convoy of generation ships had encountered a cosmic anomaly that was slowly draining their power. Their propulsion systems had failed, their life support was deteriorating, and they had sent out a desperate plea into the cosmos, hoping against hope that someone might hear them. They've been traveling for over a century, Dr. Washington explained during the emergency United Nations Security Council meeting. Their destination was a habitable planet in the Lyra constellation, but they miscalculated the effects of passing through an unexplored region of space. According to our calculations, they have approximately 7 months before life support fails completely. And what exactly are we supposed to do about it? Asked the Russian ambassador, voicing what many were thinking. We can barely reach our own moon reliably. They're over 7 light-years away. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the impossibility of the situation. Then Captain Sophia Reyes of the International Space Agency stood up. At 42, she had commanded 3 International Space Station missions and was respected worldwide for her cool head in crisis situations. "We have the prototype," she said simply. All eyes turned to her. The prototype was classified information, a revolutionary propulsion system that combined nuclear pulse propulsion with experimental warp field technology. It had never been tested with humans aboard. "The Hyperion project isn't ready," the American representative objected. "The risk is unacceptable. So we do nothing," Sophia challenged. "An entire species has reached out to us. They've given us their technology, their culture, their knowledge, all freely shared in their distress call. And our answer is sorry, too risky." Dr. Washington nodded in agreement. "Captain Rice is right. The Liriani have technologies far beyond our own. If we can reach them, what we could learn might advance humanity by centuries. But more importantly, they need our help. They've asked for it. Can we live with ourselves if we turn away?" The debate raged for days as the world's governments argued over the appropriate response. Meanwhile, news of the alien transmission leaked to the public, causing both worldwide panic and inspiration. Religious leaders debated the theological implications. Military forces went on high alert. Stock markets plummeted, then surged as companies raced to develop technologies based on the alien schematics. In laboratories and universities around the world, scientists worked feverishly to understand the Liriani technology, looking for solutions to their plight. It became clear that while the aliens had mastered interstellar travel, their approach was fundamentally different from human theories. Where humans thought in terms of warping space, the Liriani had developed ways to phase partially out of normal space-time. "That's why they're vulnerable to the anomaly," Maya explained to the emergency response team. "Their phase technology is being disrupted, but our prototype works on different principles they might not have considered." After 3 weeks of intense debate, the United Nations made its decision. Humanity would attempt a rescue mission using the experimental Hyperion vessel. The mission would carry a small crew of specialists with the necessary equipment to assist the Liriani fleet. Captain Rice was the natural choice to command the mission. She selected her crew carefully. Dr. Maya Chen as the communications specialist, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka for his expertise in alien mathematics, Lieutenant Jackson Wee as the military liaison and security officer, and Dr. Omar Patel, the lead engineer of the Hyperion project. The final addition to the crew came as a surprise. Dr. Washington himself insisted on joining the mission. "I spent my life preparing for this moment," he told Sophia when she questioned his decision. "I'm the foremost expert on xenocommunication protocols. You need me." The Hyperion was rushed through its final preparations at the secret facility beneath the Atacama Desert. The sleek vessel represented the pinnacle of human engineering, a fusion of conventional technology with insights gleaned from decades of theoretical physics. Its silver hull gleamed under the harsh lights as the crew underwent their final training simulations. Lieutenant Wee supervised the loading of supplies and equipment. "We're operating on a lot of assumptions," he noted grimly. "We don't even know if they breathe oxygen." "The atmospheric composition data was in their transmission," Maya reminded him. "They use a nitrogen-oxygen mix like us, just with higher oxygen content. We'll need respirators, but we can survive in their environment for short periods." On the night before launch, Maya found herself standing outside the facility, gazing up at the stars. The sky above the Atacama was the clearest on Earth, a vast canvas of twinkling lights that had never seemed so significant. "Couldn't sleep either?" Dr. Washington asked, joining her. Maya shook her head. "I keep thinking about them out there, waiting, not even knowing if their message was received. How many others did they contact? Are we the only ones who heard? The only ones who answered? That's what makes humanity special," Washington said softly. "We hear a cry for help from beings we've never met, and we can't ignore it. Other species might be more advanced technologically, but I like to think there's something uniquely human about our compassion. Or our curiosity," Maya added with a small smile. We can't resist the unknown. Both, Washington agreed. Tomorrow we take our first real step into the galaxy. Whatever happens, the universe will know that when called upon, humanity answered. The launch of the Hyperion took place at dawn, away from media attention and public scrutiny. As the massive engines ignited, pushing against Earth's gravity, Captain Rice addressed her crew. We are about to attempt something unprecedented in human history. The math says this is possible. The simulations say we have a 63% chance of success. But numbers don't capture what we're really doing here. We are reaching out a hand to a distant species that needs our help. We are proving that humanity's place in the universe isn't defined by our technology or our military might, but by our willingness to help others. No matter what happens next, remember this moment. This is who we are. The Hyperion rose into the atmosphere, accelerating rapidly as it broke free from Earth's gravitational pull. The conventional engines would carry them to the edge of the solar system, where they would activate the experimental drive, a moment of truth that would either send them hurtling toward the Liriani fleet or end in catastrophic failure. As Earth dwindled to a pale blue dot behind them, Maya thought about all they had left behind. Families, friends, the safety of the only home humanity had ever known. They were 5 humans in a hastily completed experimental vessel, heading toward an alien fleet 7 light-years away, with only the most basic understanding of who they were going to meet. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was the most human thing they had ever done. The Hyperion streaked through the void, carrying with it humanity's message to the stars. You are not alone. We hear you. We are coming. Beyond the known. 3 weeks into their journey, the Hyperion had crossed boundaries of space that humans had only theorized about. The experimental drive had performed beyond expectations, bending the fabric of reality around the ship in ways that defied conventional physics. But the toll on both the vessel and its crew was becoming evident. Lieutenant Wei checked the structural integrity readings for the 3rd time that hour. Hull stress is at 87% of maximum tolerance, he reported, his normally steady voice betraying a hint of concern. If we push much harder, we risk a catastrophic breach. Dr. Patel nodded grimly from his engineering station, dark circles under his eyes testament to the endless hours he'd spent monitoring the prototype drive. The theoretical models didn't account for the quantum fluctuations we're experiencing. We need to modulate the field harmonics or risk destabilization. Captain Rice studied the holographic display showing their trajectory. How long until we reach the Liriani fleet if we reduce speed by 15%? 38 hours, Maya replied after consulting her calculations, but that's assuming their position hasn't changed since their last transmission. The decision weighed heavily on Sophia. Every hour delay could mean more lives lost among the aliens they were racing to save, but pushing the ship beyond its limits might mean none of them would arrive at all. Reduce speed, she finally ordered. Dr. Patel, use the additional time to stabilize the drive. Lieutenant Wei, run a full diagnostic on all hull sections. We're no good to the Liriani if we don't reach them in one piece. As the Hyperion's engines throttled back, the vibrations that had become a constant companion over the past weeks eased slightly. The crew took advantage of the relative calm to prepare for their arrival, reviewing what little they knew about the aliens they were about to meet. Dr. Washington gathered them in the ship's small common area, projecting images extracted from the Liriani transmission. Based on their biological data, they evolved in an environment similar to Earth, but with higher oxygen content and slightly lower gravity. Their physiology is bilateral like ours, but their sensory system is primarily based on something analogous to echolocation rather than vision. The images showed tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that seemed to ripple with color. They had no discernible eyes, but their elongated heads featured complex ridges that presumably served as their sensory organs. Their social structure appears to be collective rather than hierarchical, Washington continued. They make decisions through consensus rather than command. This might make communication challenging, as they may not understand our chain of command. Do we have any idea why they were leaving their homeworld? Wei asked, studying the alien forms with professional curiosity. Maya brought up another series of images, a star system with a dying sun. Their home star was entering its red giant phase. They had centuries of warning but couldn't develop the technology to prevent it. Instead, they built generation ships to carry their entire civilization to a new home. An entire species taking to the stars, Tanaka mused. The courage that would require to leave everything behind, knowing you'll never see your home again. Courage we understand, Sophia said quietly. Let's make sure their bravery wasn't in vain. 35 hours later, the ship's long-range sensors detected the first evidence of the Liriani fleet, a dispersed pattern of massive objects drifting through the void. As they drew closer, the full scale of the alien convoy became apparent. My God, Maya whispered as the view screen displayed hundreds of enormous vessels, each easily 20 times the size of the largest human spacecraft ever constructed. But what struck her most was not their size but their condition. Many of the ships were dark, running on minimal power, while others showed visible signs of damage. Life signs? Sophia asked. Difficult to determine with our sensors, Tanaka replied, but I'm detecting power fluctuations consistent with failing life support systems. If their biological data is accurate, many of those ships must be at critical levels. Dr. Washington took his position at the communications array, broadcasting on all frequencies, using the mathematical key from their original message to structure our response. Minutes stretched into an hour as they waited for a reply, the massive alien fleet growing larger in their view screen. Then suddenly, the communication system activated. A series of complex tones filled the bridge, rising and falling in patterns that seemed almost musical. The computer struggled to translate, but gradually the alien sounds were converted to human language. Unknown vessel, the message began. You approach the Liriani Exodus fleet. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. Washington leaned forward, his voice clear and measured. This is Dr. Elijah Washington of the Earth vessel Hyperion. We received your distress signal and have come to offer assistance. There was a long pause before the response came. Earth vessel, this is not possible. Our records indicate Earth civilization has not achieved interstellar capability. Your records are outdated, Sophia interjected. We developed this technology specifically to reach you after receiving your distress call. Another pause, longer this time. When the alien voice returned, it carried a different tone, one that the translation software interpreted as disbelief mixed with hope. You developed interstellar travel to answer our call for help. Yes, Washington replied simply. That's what humans do. The Hyperion was granted permission to dock with the Liriani flagship, a massive vessel at the center of the fleet named in their language something that roughly translated to custodian of hope. As the human ship approached the docking port, the difference in scale became even more apparent. Their entire vessel was dwarfed by just one section of the alien craft. The airlock cycled, adjusting the atmosphere to a compromise that both species could tolerate for short periods. The human crew donned lightweight respirators that would compensate for the higher oxygen levels and prepared to make first contact. Captain Rice led the way, with Washington and Maya close behind. The airlock doors slid open to reveal a vast, curving corridor bathed in soft blue light. Waiting for them were 3 Liriani, their iridescent skin shifting through colors like living rainbows. The central figure stepped forward, its skin pulsing with gold and azure patterns. Instead of speaking aloud, it produced a series of tones that their translators converted. I am harmony of many, speaker for the collective. We welcome you aboard our vessel, though we still struggle to comprehend why you have come. Sophia stepped forward, removing her respirator briefly in a gesture of trust. I am Captain Sophia Rice. We came because you needed help, and we could provide it. The alien skin rippled with patterns of deep purple. Your journey must have been dangerous. Your technology appears improvised. Dr. Patel couldn't suppress a short laugh. That's one way to put it. We essentially built the drive as we went, based on theoretical models. You risked your lives, Harmony of Many observed, for beings you had never met. That's who we are, Washington said simply. The Liriani led them deeper into the ship, through corridors where more of their kind watched the humans with what seemed like wonder. They arrived at a vast chamber that appeared to be a control center, where dozens of aliens worked at stations featuring technology unlike anything the humans had seen before. Our situation is dire, Harmony of Many explained as holographic displays manifested around them, showing the status of the fleet. The cosmic anomaly we encountered has destabilized our phase technology. 3 vessels have already lost life support completely. We were forced to crowd their populations onto the remaining ships, but we cannot sustain this indefinitely. Dr. Patel studied the alien technology with fascination. Your propulsion system is ingenious, but I can see why the anomaly affected it so severely. You're partially phasing out of normal space-time to achieve superluminal travel. While our approach uses a completely different principle, Maya added, we warp space itself rather than phasing through it. For the next several hours, the human specialists worked alongside their Liriani counterparts, sharing knowledge and developing a plan. The differences in their technological approaches proved to be their greatest asset. Where the aliens had focused on manipulating their relationship with reality itself, humans had concentrated on manipulating the fabric of space around them. It's like 2 entirely different branches of physics. Dr. Tanaka marveled as he worked with a Liriani mathematician to develop models for adapting the human technology to the alien vessels. We never considered your approach, the alien responded, its skin shimmering with patterns that the humans were beginning to recognize as excitement. The fundamental assumptions of our science pointed us in a different direction. The plan that emerged was audacious. The Hyperion's warp drive would be modified to create a protective bubble around key Liriani vessels, shielding them from the effects of the anomaly long enough to restore their own systems. But it would require pushing the experimental drive far beyond its design specifications. The stress on our ship will be enormous, Dr. Patel warned during the briefing. We could lose the Hyperion entirely. What about using their technology to enhance ours? Lieutenant Wee suggested a hybrid approach. The idea sparked intense collaborative work. The Liriani, despite their dire situation, freely shared their technological knowledge, working alongside the humans to develop a solution that neither species could have created alone. 3 days later, they were ready to attempt the rescue. The Hyperion had been positioned at the center of the fleet, its warp drive modified with Liriani phase technology. The combined system would generate a field large enough to encompass the most critical vessels, allowing their crews to make essential repairs. All systems integrated, Dr. Patel reported from his station, where he worked alongside 2 Liriani engineers. But I must stress again, we're operating well beyond established parameters. Once we activate, there's no going back. Captain Rice looked around at her crew, then at their alien counterparts. We came 7 light years to help. We're not stopping now. Initiate the field. The combined human Liriani technology activated with a deep thrum that resonated through both vessels. Outside, space itself seemed to waver and distort as the protective field expanded. On the monitoring stations, they could see the energy readings from the shielded alien ships beginning to stabilize. It's working, Maya exclaimed. The field is neutralizing the anomaly's effects. But the victory was short-lived. Alarms blared across the Hyperion as the strain on its systems reached critical levels. Drive containment failing, Dr. Patel shouted over the noise. Field harmonics destabilizing. We need to shut it down. Not yet, Sophia countered, checking the status of the Liriani vessels. They need another 3 minutes to complete their emergency repairs. The ship shuddered violently as components began to fail throughout its structure. Lieutenant Wei reported multiple hull breaches in unpressurized sections. Dr. Washington was thrown from his station as a power conduit exploded nearby. 90 seconds to catastrophic drive failure, the computer announced calmly. Harmony of Many moved to Captain Ray's side, its skin now pulsing with deep crimson. You must save yourselves. You have done enough. Sophia shook her head, bracing herself against her command chair as the ship bucked beneath her. We finish what we started. That's also who we are. The final minutes stretched into what felt like hours as the Hyperion tore itself apart to maintain the protective field. Just as the computer announced imminent drive collapse, the Liriani vessels signaled completion of their emergency repairs. Dr. Patil immediately initiated shutdown, but the damage was done. The Hyperion's experimental drive imploded, tearing a massive hole in the ship's engineering section. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, preventing catastrophic decompression, but the vessel was crippled beyond repair. In the aftermath, as the human crew assessed the damage, Harmony of Many gathered the Liriani collective. Their decision was unanimous. The humans would be welcomed aboard their fleet, honored as saviors, and brought along on their journey to their new homeworld. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten, the alien told Captain Reyes as they stood in the observation deck, watching as Liriani engineers carefully salvage what they could from the broken Hyperion. You have given us back our future, and you've given us a new one, Sophia replied. A chance to learn from you, to grow alongside you.